tight on time here, so I'll just hand it over quickly to Vicky McGrath from Rare Disease Ireland.
Okay, so I had this big long presentation which is now being scrapped, which is absolutely fine by me. I guess what I might just do is, if I jump into this little bit. Okay, there's a lot of rare diseases. We'll just talk about a handful here. We've heard some very meaningful stories, some real lived experiences, and there are a lot of people in this country living these experiences on a daily basis. And you will see individuals like Les, where it's clearly apparent the person on the street, if he's out with his kids, you'll recognise that there's something going on. But over on this side, Juniper, I don't think that you would even know that there's something going on. And I think that's what we really need to recognise, that these 300,000 people living in this country with a rare disease, because they're genetic in nature, they may not have any symptoms until they're growing older, because, you know, young kids or whatever. It's just, I guess, what we need to understand is that the person on the street, the people in this room, the likelihood is that one of us actually has a rare disease that you may not even know about yet. You know, it's 1 in 17, give or take. And so I think that we just need to understand that the health service that we have today is very focused on curing what we would call the common diseases. Very focused on cancers, on cardiology, on care for the elderly and stuff like that. There's a whole community out there, while we call them rare, as a group, there's a very, very large number of them. They're all over the country, they're all in the different constituencies very definitely, and they're all struggling at home. Most of them are behind closed doors, and most of them are struggling with daily life. I guess the impact on different families is very different. We've had some very stark cases here, but we need to be aware. Now I understand, you know, we have a lot of, I guess, challenges around the healthcare system that we have, and we're all looking forward to staunch care and how it might change what we do. But really the biggest challenges for us, for the rare disease community, and rare is not a word that I like to use, I think it's the wrong word to use, but for our community, is around awareness. We've heard today about, you know, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just an infection, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. That's the challenge that we really face, that we need to increase the awareness, that we all understand actually a lot of people don't fall into that 80%. A lot of people are in that 20% that aren't readily diagnosed, and so we need to ensure that our doctors and our healthcare providers and we as individuals recognise that there is something really unusual here, there's something odd, this isn't quite right, I'm not happy to send them home, I'm not happy to go home. And to try and speed up, for the typical rare disease patient, it's taking 4 to 5 years for a diagnosis. And this I know from my own experience. I have a son who's about 4 years in now. I don't expect to get a diagnosis anytime soon. Fortunately, he's one of the lucky ones. He's in school and nobody really knows or understands. It's not that I won't talk about it, but it is just life. And so, you know, I guess what I'm trying to get across is that this is a large number of people, a large constituency, consuming a huge amount of healthcare, and quite possibly unnecessarily. And if we can do things like the newborn screening, it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of ethics and there's a lot of challenges around screening, and we're a country that understands some of these challenges at this stage. So it's not going to be an easy thing to introduce, but we need to do this kind of stuff to eliminate some of the costs and therefore, you know, spend that money wiser. I guess that'll be it in summary.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I know in Italy and other countries in Europe, if a child patient is not diagnosed or nothing clear is determined after an initial investigation, that child is immediately admitted into hospital and it doesn't leave until the mystery is solved. That's not the case here in Ireland, and our diagnosis was a year and a half. You know, that goes back to maybe 2 months, 3 months if you're admitted and they carry out all the tests. So that was my experience from meeting others in Italy from 18 different countries around the world who had that same treatment.
One thing I might just add, just reminded me there, is that there is a study that's recently been conducted, and you know, even just basic research and understanding the numbers is one of the big challenges that we face. But it's a global challenge, it's not just Ireland really. But there has been a very large study conducted of all people born, I think it was in the year 2000. So these are all people that are now reaching adulthood. And there's a minimum incidence of 3.3% of a rare disease diagnosed in people that were born in 2000. So this is your leaving cert year. People starting their leaving cert next year, or probably actually did it last year, I should say. About 2,000 of them have already been diagnosed with a rare disease. That's quite amazing, really. And you wouldn't know about it. You wouldn't know about it. Rare diseases are really serious. The paediatric populations of people who have not survived to make it to the 17, 18-year-old type age, about 2/3 of their deaths are related to rare diseases. So, large proportion of those children who die in youth before the age of 17, they have a rare disease associated with them. There's something like 30% of people diagnosed, or children diagnosed before the age of 5, will not reach 5. So this is the critical impact of these types of things, and this is what we're trying to, I guess, just to get that knowledge and understanding out there, that we can actually create an action around all of these types of things. Super, thank you.
And Lola from 22Q11 and also Rare Disease Ireland is going to say a few words now. I know we're very tight for time, so
the very strange in 22Q, yeah. What you've heard this morning is variations on the theme. This is our rare disease plan. I was at a Urordis conference. It was held up as one of the best in Europe. It's out of date. It hasn't been implemented, but it's super. It really is super. Newborn screening is mentioned in it. Everything's mentioned in it. I'd have to say my own experience is very like a lot of what's happened, but my child was diagnosed when she was 15. When she was 6, I was told she was mildly mentally retarded. Nobody knew why. Diagnosed at 15, no internet, no connection, no network, nothing. Very isolating experience.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that 22Q is one of several what they call CNVs, copy number variants, that are in our DNA, and they cause neurodevelopmental disorders. So there is significant cause of disability, intellectual, sensory, mental health also, ASD conditions, autism spectrum conditions, all of that. I was left with no support after the diagnosis, so I co-founded the 22Q Ireland group. This is one of our little guys. He doesn't look like he has a rare disease, does he? It's a very, very condition. He's the only one in the worldwide community that has 1 ear. It's a really very good condition. Our geneticist tells me that there's somewhere between 20 to 30 babies born a year in Ireland. We don't have newborn screening for it. So these children and their families go through a huge diagnostic odyssey. I have parents in the group now who are diagnosed after their children. They've just struggled through life with their health, education, social care issues. So, and there's no support for them. We're not funded. We have no government support. All of our work is done on the back of parents fundraising. We've managed to start working with our fabulous clinicians. And we now have a small clinic going in Crumlin Hospital. I'd like to see it expand. I'd like it to be a complex care clinic for all children. Because rare is, as Vicky said, I don't like the word rare either. We have ultra rare, rare, and common rare. I consider us one of the common rare conditions. Okay, our children now live past 5 because of life-saving congenital heart surgery and immune problems. The SCID actually would pick up 22Q if it was implemented. But there's all the other chromosomal conditions. You know, genetics and genomics has gone light years ahead of us, really, and it's sitting there and it's going to come at us with an avalanche, you know, and we're not prepared for it. We're not prepared for any of it. And yet it underpins so much of our health and our health systems and our health needs, our educational needs of our children. You know, I had to set up a charity to get my child's health needs looked at, her educational needs looked at, and her social care needs looked at. She's not a charity case. She's a citizen. She's a citizen of this country, and she has the right, like we all do, to good health care, education care, and social care. We need to start talking together. We need to start linking all these systems. So that I on a daily basis, I hear these stories because I'm on the cold case, even though I'm voluntary. You know, there's a lot. Facebook has changed the Facebook in particular has changed things for parents, because this is where they gather, this is where they connect, this is where they hear each other's stories, and there's so many stories. And those parents are fighting on a daily basis. It's not always about orphan drugs and huge therapies. Often it's about the simple things of access and timely access to care.
Since I was on the radio yesterday morning, I've had a flood of email contacts through our Facebook page. People saying that they're all similar stories that they heard, and you know, it's very like their kid. They thought they were alone. Like, that was me for the last 2 years until I raised my head and had a look around and found these guys. You know, such an untapped resource. The rare disease community needs to come together. That needs to be supported by the government. The Rare Disease Office exists and is doing good work, but it needs to expand, and the likes of the charity groups have to be supported. They go to international conferences and host them here, and they go and visit their counterparts in other countries in their head office with their staff. You know, and then they go home and are on their laptop in the kitchen between feeds and medications. It's just not correct, as they say down where I live.
But I'm grateful today that we have the opportunity, and I hope it's a springboard for more discussion and more connection. Thank you.
I'm sorry for rushing you at the end. I'm conscious there'll be another group coming in here in a couple of minutes, and I'm delighted my party spokesperson on health, Louise O'Reilly, I know she was kind of the chamber, and I know she was to sit up here, so maybe Louise, if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, I will. Very briefly, I just want to thank everyone for the presentations. The issue of, and I agree with Vicky, rare diseases are not rare. They obviously impact on 300,000 people, but the opportunity exists for us as politicians to be able to get in on the ground floor and actually address this in terms of the newborn screening. We don't need to invent this model. The model exists already. We simply need to replicate it. But we also need to be mindful of the fact that we have a rare disease plan. Newborn screening is mentioned in it. The plan is now a year. It's a year out of date already. Very little, if any of it, has been implemented. So while the political will might exist in terms of a letter to say, I will look at this, in order to get it done, it will take pressure to ensure that it actually happens. So I know that we in Sinn Féin have campaigned and pushed to get the rare diseases plan implemented, but that's a start, because you don't need another review, you don't need another report. A very comprehensive report exists already. But in terms of the newborn screening, that should be very, very plainly, and I mentioned Les, and I've heard you speak about CAHL, and but if you want to take the humanity and the emotion out of it, you can make a very good value for money argument in terms of newborn screening, and that, I think, separate to the human story, the value for money argument to me is an unassailable one, and certainly we would see it as our job as a party of opposition to ensure that we bring this to the attention of the government and that we try to push for it. But we don't need another report. The report exists, the plan is there. So I want to assure you of our support, and we will work with all parties and none across the House if people are willing to work with us to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Louise. I know Senator Norris and Deputy Casey from Wicklow are here as well, so just to acknowledge that, so I'm not sure as to whether either Senator you want to.
Well, I'd like to salute the braveness of the people here, the courage. It's quite outstanding, you know. I think Blaise is a wonderful man, and I will be raising it on the order of business tomorrow in the Senate with as much of the information that I've taken down here today.
I envisage a bigger crowd and a collective responsibility from the government, so I don't know what do we do now that there's nobody here to listen. You know, it's a waste of message.
No, it's not a waste. We have other ways of getting the message to the government, and we will do that.
From each party to relay it back, the seriousness of it, you know.
I mean, the fact that the parties and the independents are represented here is positive. But what we will do is we will relay that message. You know, we can't as a party of opposition, we're not in government. The decision is not ours to make, but we have a job to hold the government to account and to hold their feet to the fire.
And although there aren't many members here, I think there are some representatives of members who are making notes.
Yeah,
if you can ask the question of Minister Harris to explain what their plan is, it looks reasonable, and a timeline for that plan, and be happy with yourselves that every week is shaved off that as best as possible, because every week is another life. You know, maybe it takes an awful experience to understand the meaning of that, and that's why I've been naively wandering around thinking everybody was going to come flooding to help me, and that hasn't happened. You know, and I can't give out to the people who are here, of course, but you know what I mean. Like,
but
I'm surprised at the lack of interest.
No, I wouldn't let us take it as a lack of interest. Today is a business day. There's committees on. I was caught in the Dail chamber myself, and I had hoped to be here for the full presentation and to sit with John there. That sometimes that happens. Please don't take that as a lack of interest. And it is the job of the people who are here and the representatives from offices to make that to get that message, and to make sure that it gets heard at the highest levels.
And by raising it in the door and the shell, that will alert other members.
What I'll do is I'll put together the letters of support and a bullet point, a summary as best as I can, with none of the human story in it. You know, that was a good vehicle to deliver it. But the facts, as you say, are black and white, and I'll summarise that and attach and email me all the letters.
But don't take. I mean, as I said to you, today is a business day. People they want to attend very often, they can't. But we will make sure, because the people who are here and the representatives of the members that are here will make sure that the message is heard at the highest levels. We can do that. That is part of our job, and we will do that.
And just to concur with that, I mean, look, pressure.
What's,
you know, and whether it's through Facebook. I mean, I told you, Les, I was out canvassing a couple of weeks ago, and people were raising it on the doors. But they, you know,
well, you'll be out canvassing again shortly, and it should be this. Well, you will, you know, and find the people, you know, in your own constituencies, and ask them how they're being helped and what their story is, because they're everywhere. They really are. Like,
no,
look, anyone, and listen, I've spoken to you a number of times, you know, and it's touched me here, you know, and as people have said, it's a no-brainer in so many different regards. The model is there. It's a simple case of picking it up and putting it in place here. If the Italians were able to roll it out, you know, to screen for 40 diseases in 12 months, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do it here. And I think it's incumbent on all parties in this institute and to work together. This is non-party political. This is common sense. You know, there's a real human dimension and element to this, and you know, that's what's touched me. And you know, I only hope that more TDs, and look, they are listening, and you know, I know it will touch them as well. You know, because every day lost, every week lost is another family impact.
What a thing to leave behind for the current government if you know it changes shortly. The legacy of that bill being enacted into the future, saving lives by the hundreds. You know.
And actually, just on that, even if there is a general election called, I like this can't fall on its face.
No.
Because we'll be at the back of the queue. Italy, we're at the top right now, and we have to seize that as a gilt-edged opportunity. And I think whatever the fast-track plan that's put in place, I think even if there's a change in government, there's a general election in a few months, whatever, that has to continue. It has to be put into the hands of whatever department that are just going to run with it regardless of what's happening in the Oireachtas. I think that's, for me, that's a huge thing.
And that's our job.
I know we've overstayed
We have
our time here, so look, just to thank everyone for coming along.
Thank you very much for having us.
Good to see you too.